The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
Minister of Health Zura Bazarashvili has resigned. The Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Qobakhidze, spoke to the Minister of Health, after which Zura Bazarashvili stepped down. The head of the government will introduce the new Minister of Health in the coming days. The output of hydroelectric power plants increased and amounted to 741 million kilowatt hours in January 2024 compared to the same period of the previous year. This amount of electricity is 98% more compared to January 2023. The energy generated by hydroelectric plants took a 57% share in the total energy consumption of Georgia in January. For comparison, this figure was only 28% in January 2023. The general manager of the managing company of Tbilisi and Batumi International Airport is conducting negotiations with the largest Asian airlines on the start of direct flights to Georgia and future cooperation. Tea Zakaradze participates in the Road Development Forum Roads Asia 2024 in Malaysia. The largest airlines, airports, aviation authorities, and the decision makers in the field of tourism from many countries of the world participate in the conference. The EU delegation to Georgia, together with 4 Georgian organizations, launched a new project to support and strengthen Georgia's civil society, promoting greater civic awareness and engagement in judicial reforms and facilitating increased access to justice through holistic multi-agency action. Project will be implemented by Georgian Young Lawyers Association, Social Justice Center, Institute for Development of Freedom of Information, and Studio Monitor. The project mainly aims to enhance accessibility, independence, transparency, impartiality, and accountability within the justice system, with a particular emphasis on advancing judicial reforms. It will operate through capacity building, advocacy, evaluation, and strategic litigation. This is The Checkpoints. I'm Elena Guanjilashvili, author and the host of the show, and the Checkpoints team is ready to sum up Business and Economics Week for you. Today, the Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Qobakhidze, met with the members of the Business Association Georgia. Here are the main voices.
This is an important event on how the government and business should cooperate, how business should develop, or how the business interests should be protected in order to promote the ergonomic development of business. Once again, I expressed openness and readiness to have close cooperation on all of issues. Also, we have achievements. There are still remains challenges.
We talked about the macroeconomic parameters, the macroeconomic framework in general, and the soundness of the country in this regard. We selected 6 of the most rapidly growing sectors of our country, and we have a rather deep and professional analysis on each of them. We told the Prime Minister that we had at least 2 very interesting initiatives, economic reforms, in our portfolio. The association does this permanently, and we will introduce this to the new Prime Minister.
This week, the World Bank in Tbilisi presented a new report, Middle Trade and Transport Corridor Policies and Investments to Triple Freight Volumes and Halve Travel Time by 2030. The report provides a comprehensive assessment of the expected demand for the Middle Corridor, a multimodal rail and maritime corridor linking Chinese and European markets via Central Asia and the Caucasus. The study also offers a detailed diagnostic of infrastructure and logistics services capacity and constraints in the 3 core countries of the Middle Corridor, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Georgia. One of the key messages of the report is that this is an opportune moment to realize the catalyzing potential of the Middle Corridor. New data and economic modeling in the report support the viability of the Middle Corridor. A combination of investments and efficiency measures can reduce travel times along the corridor by half and triple trade flows by 2030, according to World Bank, although there is significant significant focus on the corridor's role as a land bridge between China and Europe, it is of critical importance as a regional corridor for countries through which trade will flow. The World Bank says an increased trade between Azerbaijan, Georgia, Kazakhstan and Europe are the key drivers of demand. Modeling projects a 37% increase in trade between Azerbaijan, Georgia and Kazakhstan, and a 28% increase between these countries and the EU by 2030. According to the World Bank assessment, a fully functioning corridor would help to shield China-Europe trade and supply chains from shocks. The World Bank believes that the near-term efficiency gains and medium-term investments will strengthen the functioning of the Middle Corridor and harness its potential to invigorate regional trade. This requires steps to improve coordination, logistics and digitalization, while critical investments are needed to upgrade railways, intermodal facilities and ports in Azerbaijan, Georgia and Kazakhstan. There is a huge potential for economic development if the Middle Corridor is fully developed, said Rolanda Price, the World Bank Regional Director for the South Caucasus on Tuesday. According to the World Bank Regional Director, Georgia is one of the key countries in the Middle Corridor.
Today we're launching a World Bank study called Unlocking the Potential of the Middle Corridor. And there are a number of findings, but I think the key finding is that there's an opportunity to triple trade volumes and to half travel time as compared with what the times were in 2021 and the trade volumes of 2021, which means that there is a huge potential for economic development if the Middle Corridor is fully developed. But this is going to take some time and it's going to take some investments. And most importantly, it's going to take collaboration between the various stakeholders, both public and private, in order to make it happen.
We knew that the report was coming since Tbilisi hosted a Silk Road Forum. That's when the Checkpoint sat down with Charles Cormier, World Bank's Infrastructure Regional Director for Europe and Central Asia, for an interview on the potential of the Middle Corridor. The World Bank's Infrastructure Regional Director then told the Checkpoints that the World Bank had already finalized a report that would see the daylight in coming weeks.
The Middle Corridor, though, saw an increase in trade of about 33% compared to last year in 2023. And we are about to publish a study that will soon come out where we're looking at also trade flow projections over the next decade. And we do think that the Middle Corridor is viable. Some people think about it as a redundancy, so as an alternate route, but for some markets, for containerized freight, if you improve the efficiencies around border crossing points, around logistics, improving the performance of the rail sector, you could attract a lot of that volume. And for open freight, already there's not too much alternatives. For the countries that are landlocked, the Middle Corridor is already viable. But we'll have some interesting numbers you'll see in the next few weeks on the trade projections and why we think the Middle Corridor is still viable, even if when peace breaks out eventually and we see a normalization, we do think Middle Corridor will be viable.
Can't wait to see that study. The report is out, and this time Shomink Mendirata, the World Bank's practice manager for transport in Europe and Central Asia, took our questions. Mr. Shomink, thank you for taking our questions, and thank you for being on the show. First of all, what were some of the main messages of the conference today?
Elena, thank you very much for having me on the show. Our conference today was on the Middle Corridor and the World Bank Middle Corridor report. And I think the messages that were discussed were the messages of the report. This is the moment of the Middle Corridor, and if the Middle Corridor rises up to it, it can become an important element of the east-west intercontinental traffic, not just for what it is, which is a very important regional corridor, which serves the countries of Kazakhstan and Georgia and Azerbaijan, but also as a land bridge potentially between China and the EU. Now, for the Middle Corridor to get its potential, the report suggested and the conference confirmed that there are kind of 5 big ideas.
Exactly. Let us follow each one,
Let's
if that's
follow each,
okay.
yes.
So that our viewers also get the essence of what the report was about. So the first one is reimagine the middle corridor as an economic corridor.
Yeah, so this is a long-term suggestion, but a very critical suggestion. When we say reimagine the corridor as an economic corridor, what we mean is, while it's important to make sure that it's efficient, that the travel times go down, that costs go down, think also about the economic development impacts that this increased accessibility can bring. So, think about how you can generate more jobs, more business along the corridor that benefits from the increased accessibility. And perhaps I'll give you one or two examples.
Exactly.
One example could be cargo distribution centers. As you have more container traffic, perhaps you can induce and incentivize businesses to set up distribution centers or logistics centers along the corridor. Another example is when the increased accessibility makes a location better for production, then perhaps complementary policies on creating the right facilities for an industrial zone can have an impact. So that's really what we mean. And in the best cases, the best corridors have had that impact. Not only, and our report gives some examples of it, not only creating efficient transport, but engendering regional development along the way.
Yes, offer corridor length logistics solutions.
At the moment, for most traffic, the middle corridor still remains almost like a series of pipes. You have a pipe on the Kazakhstan rail side, and then the port side, and then you have Baku port, and then more rail. And every time you cross a border, it's almost like a different, it's a connection of two pipes. And an end-to-end solution is when the whole thing feels like one pipe. Yes? What does that mean? That you don't have to put information over and over again to cross borders. It means that when you want the price of traveling on the middle corridor for a piece of cargo, you can get a price for the whole trip. You don't have to piece together prices from different agencies. So it's both a matter of receiving information before you make your decision. It's a matter of how your cargo is treated, and it's a matter of receiving information during the trip. So, for most people now, it's not only important to have, travel costs, travel time, and reliability, but it's important to know where your cargo is, to have visibility. And having an end-to-end solution means that wherever it is, you are able to get a sense of where the cargo is.
Yes, you mentioned the price, but probably the next step also adds to this length logistics solutions, that's reform and simplify procedures.
Every time you cross a border, every country has their own interests, has a need to make sure their borders are safe. So there are a lot of procedures. The problem is that in the middle corridor, any piece of cargo crosses multiple borders. And unless those borders are not aligned in what information they're asking and how they're treating cargo in terms of risk management, you run the risk of very long delays at these borders. In addition to the borders, you have multimodal shifts. You go from rail to port, and from port to rail again. And every time you have a connection like this, you run the risk of delays. So, both for information and for operational reasons. And the idea is to find ways to reduce and synchronize and align those.
The next step is leverage the potential of digital data flows.
Digital data flows, I think the conference today confirmed, perhaps are, for a modern cargo system, the most important thing you can do. And, there are so many elements to it. You know, think of the Expedia. You know, when you want to take a trip, you want to be able to order, to get a price and availability as soon as you put in your origin destination. You know, so that is one part of digitization, which currently is still difficult in the middle corridor. The second part of digitization, think of an Apple AirTag. You know, you put an AirTag in your bag so you can see where it is. You have the visibility. And you see many airlines do that to your bags now because you want that visibility. It gives you comfort. That's another element of digitization, this track and trace. A third one is, for example, just the process you use when you check in your suitcase. You know, you get it at the other end. You have a barcode, and that barcode is used by the airlines, the airports, for all their processes. You know, the same way as you have a piece of cargo that's crossing countries, that's crossing borders, that's crossing modes, crossing operators, it needs a simple and simplified set of electronic documents so that you don't have to repeat all those documents. And once you have all that, you can actually make sure that you can do operations more efficiently. So digitization has all these different dimensions, and that's what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. And the last but not the least, continue to improve infrastructure and equipment following robust prioritization plan.
You know, as the corridor already has some important choke points where the investments are needed. Turkey, for instance, requires several important investments. Across the Caucasus, rolling stock is an issue. There are important choke points actually, there are some important choke points almost across the corridor. And as traffic increases, there will be more needs. So, you know, perhaps the operational issues can be solved even a little more quickly, but in the long run, for this corridor to achieve its potential, there is a need for a lot of investments. And anytime there's a need for a lot of investments, there's a need to do it carefully, so you save your scarce resources and do the right ones at the right time.
So do you see this potential for this very tough and complex project to be bankable at some point?
We wouldn't be here if it's not bankable, would we? So, I mean, for the World Bank, of course, you know, we're a development institution. So when we think of what's bankable, it's not only the economic benefits, but, you know, the benefits it brings from a climate perspective, from a resilience perspective, from a perspective of a broader holistic development. And certainly, we see this as an important and very bankable project, a very bankable program for the countries of Central Asia, the Caucasus, and for connecting China to the EU. And I think in addition to that, there will be separate investment projects that are also bankable from a traditional financial perspective. And I think it's this combination of layered bankability that makes this an important and interesting project.
Will it be easy to convince investors, to convince the countries to invest in the potential of the middle corridor? Because one of the findings even of this report says that in the middle run, so to say, the corridor will still be more of a regional value rather than a global value.
I was very encouraged actually with the reception that the report has received. In part, I think what the reception is telling us is that the countries are already making those investments. Because I think this regional traffic, it's not a minus, it's not a bug, it's a feature. What it provides is economic viability, you know, and economic viability with regional traffic gives you the luxury of making those improvements, being able to afford the improvements that then allow you to get land bridge traffic between China and EU. So certainly we are supporting Turkey to make some big investments. We are talking to all the other countries in the corridor that are interested in important assessments, and so are some of our other development partners. So I see a very strong interest across the board from all the countries in making this corridor all it can be.
Is it easy to see what could be the so to say the budget of the middle corridor at this point? Because now we see some of the figures. At the very beginning there were not even figures, but now we already see some figures.
Well, you know, I think the immediate priority is digitization and border controls and simplification, and thinking of seamless, coordinated, packaging of products. And these are not expensive. These we are talking about millions and maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. Then we are talking about changes in modernization of the port rail interfaces, modernization of the ports, and perhaps some capacity improvements at the ports. Again, we are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars. So I think in the immediate term, for less than $1 billion, which sounds like a lot, but distributed over many countries over 5 or 6 years, you can get very significant improvements. And then as these improvements start creating more volumes and more success, there will be a need for more infrastructure investment, of course. And you may know that EBRD came out with a report suggesting that there is scope for up to $18 billion of investment in the broader middle corridor. And ultimately, of course, that kind of investment may well be needed if the corridor becomes as successful as it can be.
In Georgia, during the Silk Road Forum, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Kazakhstan created a joint venture to develop this middle corridor's multimodal service. Did you hear during the conference people referring to that venture, and do you think this could be supposed to be like one step towards what we were talking about, the reforming, simplifying procedures, providing one price, and seemingly having this one pipeline rather than parts of a one pipeline?
Indeed, I do think that joint venture is an important part of the solution. You know, we did hear during the conference about blockchain trains that have been moving, almost seamlessly from China all the way to Poti Port. That's already a sign of much improved coordination. We have also heard about a digital joint venture created with PSA of Singapore to help digitize the corridor that has started with Kazakhstan, is now working in Azerbaijan, and is starting work in Georgia. So I think there is important work going on, both on the operational side in terms of seamlessness and on the digital side. So I think the work is ongoing, yes.
Yes, so the report makes emphasis on robust prioritization of projects. At this point, where do you see the most bottlenecks? Is it railway? Is it roads? Is it
I'll talk on the extended corridor. I think on the extended corridor, perhaps Turkey rail is one of the most important bottlenecks, crossing the Bosphorus and all of Turkey. These are investments that we are getting involved in, and I'm happy to tell you that they're getting solved. In the Caucasus, I would say that the most urgent investment is in rolling stock. And that's true in Georgia, but it's also true in Azerbaijan. That at the moment it is too often the paucity of rolling stock which is creating delays. And then I think the next big bottleneck is the modernization of the ports. Both in Baku and Aktau, I think there would be benefits, not immediately in increasing capacity, but at least modernizing procedures, modernizing equipment, and then adding capacity. There are some bottlenecks on the railroads, important bottlenecks, but those perhaps affect bulk traffic, the traditional traffic, a little more because they cause speed restrictions. So I think important to invest in the rail systems and to make sure that the tracks are up to date, but the absolute critical infrastructure needs are Turkey, rolling stock in the Caucasus, and the ports.
And also, since you mentioned the ports, does Georgia need the deep sea port? You know, there are talks about building Anaklia and also helping Poti. Is it a critical infrastructure for the middle corridor to function or not?
Well, at the moment, most of the middle corridor traffic goes through Poti and Batumi. And from what we have understood, the latest figures suggest that Poti is already working at capacity. Growth at Poti has been much faster than I think almost anyone could have predicted. And if Poti does not expand, then I think you will start seeing delays accumulating in the middle corridor, maybe even in a year. So there is a need for more port capacity, at least until the Turkish rail solution comes on board. How to do that, we haven't been very involved so far, though we would be happy to support the government to think through their options.
Also, what are some of the specific recommendations that the World Bank might have for these countries along the middle corridor? What could be the quick wins so that the process goes on smoothly?
I think the quickest wins have to do with simplification of documentation and with digitization. Okay, these are not easy wins, but these are the quickest wins. Okay, I think I was encouraged to hear how much work is going on there, and I think we are supporting some of that work. We are helping the different stakeholders coordinate on technology solutions, but digitization and digitization of the customs process and simplification of the customs process are perhaps the most rapid things they can do. The next would be operational changes, especially at the ports, both on the port rail interface and the Caspian is a very particular environment, and it requires very particular kinds of operational protocols. And we are doing some work where we hope to provide some suggestions on how to make the Caspian ports operate at perhaps a higher throughput. Yes.
And also the trade model developed by the World Bank foresees an overall increase in trade between China and the EU by about 30% by 2030, and also halving the transport time. Please elaborate a little bit on that.
I think what we suggest is if you can make the improvements that we suggest, then travel times can be consistently brought down to less than 20 days. And that would significantly increase traffic and significantly increase this China-EU traffic, which would be all containers. That's a new kind of traffic. It's an exciting traffic. It's profitable traffic. And to be able to grow that traffic would be, I think, very much in the interest of the Middle Corridor. Now, it will always be that most of that China-EU traffic will travel, for example, by ocean or by other means. So it will always be a small part of that traffic that will travel on the Middle Corridor. But it could be a very exciting development for the Middle Corridor.
My last question, and thank you for your time. What do you want at this point to be the main message of the report towards those countries that are involved in Middle Corridor and those investors that might be interested in investing? And
I think the Middle Corridor has its moment. This is its moment, and the word to all the stakeholders is let's take advantage of this moment and make this corridor an important, viable part of the intercontinental traffic.
How can Georgia specifically contribute to that? Because here in Georgia there are also challenges, right? Because we see the different indexes show it is quite expensive in Georgia. So what could Georgia do specifically to contribute to that?
I would say three things. I think first is it's critical to solve the rolling stock problem. And that will mean it's not a question only of financing, but it's a question of thinking through institutions, of the relationship between Georgia Rail and government, so that critical investments like locomotives can be made by Georgia Railways, that they are not weighed down by legacy debt to be able to do that. The second is make sure that in the short run, port capacity does not become a constraint. It's been fantastic to see the growth in Pothi, but 1 year from now, Pothi can become the bottleneck if there is no expansion. So let's solve that. And the third is institutions. I've talked about rail institutions, but thinking also about port sector institutions. Because ultimately the government of Georgia has to find ways of expressing their interests in infrastructure and has to do it in ways that still bring the animal spirits of the private sector in to make the investments. And I think these are important discussions that are happening in Georgia at the moment and can be a very big part of the Middle Corridor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for a very interesting interview.
Thank you very much.
The estimated real gross domestic product growth rate amounted to 5.8% for January 2024 compared to previous year. In January 2024, compared to the same period of the previous year, the estimated real growth in following activities contributed significantly: construction, financial and insurance activities, information and communication. Declines were registered in trade, real estate activities and manufacturing. Number of newly registered enterprises declined by 14.5% year over year. Growth of VAT payers turnover used in rapid estimates of economic growth equaled 1.4% year over year. In January 2023, VAT payers turnover growth was 21.8%. How did the economy perform this week in our short overview?
China has introduced a visa-free travel regime for Georgian citizens. Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze announced at the government meeting. Georgian citizens can stay now in China visa-free for up to 30 days. This decision is a great significance as it not only facilitates travel for our fellow citizens but also opens up new avenues for advancing political, economical and cultural connections between Georgia and China. Furthermore, this positive development is a tangible outcome of the strategic partnership agreement established between Georgia and China last year. I congratulate my fellow citizens and express gratitude to my Chinese friends and the Chinese authorities for this noteworthy decision, Prime Minister stated. The visa-free travel for Chinese citizens took effect in Georgia on September 2023. Georgia and China signed the strategic partnership agreement in June 2023. Levan Davitashvili, the first Vice Prime Minister and Minister of Economy and Sustainable Development, discussed Georgia's relationships with the USA, emphasizing the need for more outcomes. He mentioned ongoing efforts to review trade agreements, work on more liberal regime for crucial export products, and the desire for progress in free trade. We continue our efforts to attract increased quality investment from the United States. This includes our commitment to facilitating direct flights by being prepared to implement necessary infrastructural changes at our airports, while acknowledging the challenge we may encounter and recognizing that our efforts alone may not be sufficient. We remain proactive. We understand that this initiative, new direct flights, might initially be challenging commercially, but it holds significant importance in fostering trade, economic collaboration, tourist and people-to-people relations. In this regard, the U.S. government support would be appropriate and valuable. This collaboration is particularly crucial as we are strategic partners and there is a mutual desire to deepen these relations, emphasizing economic aspects, Davitashvili stated. Tbilisi Mayor Kakakaladze calls on business sector to adapt to the regulation on the restriction of the movement of heavy vehicles soon. As the mayor mentioned at the government meeting, some of the representatives of business sector met these regulations unprepared. I would like to once again call on the business sector, both service providing and receiving entities, to adapt to the established regulations so that we don't have to find them, said Kakakaladze. According to him, no one is happy to find someone, but in order to make it easier for citizens to move and ease the traffic, the relevant regulation is important. As the mayor noted, the situation in terms of movement has improved in recent months. We remember what happened months ago. Today we have a radically different situation. The traffic is eased, but our goal is not yet fulfilled. From January 1, Tbilisi City Hall enforced the restricted movement for heavy vehicles on work days in the morning and evening and during rush hours in Georgia's capital. The violation of the said rules will result a fine of 1,000 lari. At the municipal government meeting, Tbilisi Mayor Kakakaladze shared that starting March 2, there will be a new fleet of MAN-buses, which are 80 meters long, operating on the following roads: from St. Barbara district to Politkovskaya Street, from Gdani to Baratashvili Street, from Didiromi to Baratashvili Street. Kakakaladze said that purchasing 18-meter-long buses was one of the priorities of the transport policy to make public transport most comfortable and quick. We continue to work within the transport policy and we will hold many interesting events and implement the project which is important in this direction, he said. The new buses are adapted for people with limited physical capabilities. They are equipped with modern air conditioning, heating, ventilation, security and audio-visual systems. Kakakaladze added that Tbilisi Hall will import 160 80-meter-long buses. 50 such buses are already in Tbilisi and 40 will be purchased shortly. In 2023, the average monthly number of local visitors aged 15 and older on the territory of Georgia was 1,278,000 and the average monthly number of visits made by them to the territory of Georgia was 1,599,000 units, according to the National Statistics Office of Georgia. According to their own reports, the number of visitors increased by 6.2% during the mentioned period and the number of visits made by them is 17.5% higher than the similar indicator of 2022. In 2023, the average monthly number of tourist-type visits made by residents of Georgia to the territory of Georgia was determined at 692,000, which is 8.1% more than the similar indicator of 2022. In 2023, 36.6% of visitors belong to the 31-50 age group. In addition, the number of women was 54.5% of total number of visitors. In 2022, the majority of visits were made to the visit friends and relatives. In the reporting period, the largest part of this visit was carried out in Tbilisi and Emirati region. The volume of average monthly expenses during visits in 2023 was determined at 278 million lari. This indicator is 20% higher than the similar indicator of the last year. In addition, the average cost per visit has decreased by 4.7% and equal to 173 lari, the document reads. The Ministry of Finance expects a big profit from the state enterprises for 2023. Deputy Finance Minister Giorgi Kakauridze told BMG about this. The Deputy Minister says it's difficult to talk about exact results at this stage, although expectations are positive. Giorgi Kakauridze especially mentions the positive dynamics of Georgian Railway and Georgian Oil and Gas Corporation. 2022 was good for state-owned enterprises. It was a profitable year for almost all state-owned enterprises. In total, their profit made up to 1 billion lari. We are interested in corporations that are not financed from the budget, and to some extent their activities should contribute to the economy. When we look at the dynamics of their activities in 2023, we think they finished previous year with a pretty good profit. It's hard to give exact numbers because we don't have audited accounts, Kakauridze said. In 2022, state enterprises reached a total profit of 1,356 million lari. As of the Ministry of Finance, more than 86% of net profit comes from the profit obtained from the currency exchange rates. The number of foreign students in Georgian higher education institutions amounted to 30.7 thousand, which was 22.5% higher compared to the previous year, according to the National Statistics Office of Georgia. According to the document, the number of professors in the higher education institutions is 11.2 thousand, which is 5.9% more compared to the same indicator of the previous year. At the beginning of the 2023 and 2024 academic year, 54.3 thousand students were enrolled in Georgian higher education institutions. Out of them, 32.4 thousand in state universities and 21.9 thousand in private universities. Student admissions increased by 8.4% compared to the same period of the previous year. At the beginning of 2023 and 2024 academic year, 62 higher education institutions were in Georgia, of which 90 state and 43 private institutions. Approximately two-thirds of higher educational institutions are located in Tbilisi.
The Ministry of Finance expects a big profit from the state enterprises for 2023. Deputy Finance Minister Giorgi Kakauridze told BMG. The Deputy Minister says it is difficult to talk about exact results at this stage, although expectations are positive. Giorgi Kakauridze especially mentions the positive dynamics of Georgian Railway and Georgian Oil and Gas Corporation. 2022 was good for state-owned enterprises. It was a profitable year for almost all state-owned enterprises. In total, their profit made up 1 billion lari. We're interested in corporations that are not financed from the budget, and to some extent their activities should contribute to the economy. When we look at the dynamics of their activities in 2023, we think they finished the previous year with a pretty good profit. It's hard to give exact numbers because we don't have audited accounts. However, we think we'll have good results in that direction. Georgian Railways, the Oil and Gas Corporation, as well as other big enterprises are especially noteworthy. It is also worth noting that the dividend payment was recorded, and this fact has not been observed in the last 10 years. The gas transportation company paid a dividend of 50 million, and this amount is already in the budget, Kakauridze said. In 2022, state enterprises reached a total profit of 1,356 million lari. As of the Ministry of Finance, more than 86% of the net profit comes from the profit obtained from the currency exchange rates. This week's Business News and Outlook presented by our reporter Natia Taktakishvili.
Company Lisi Development finished distinctive architectural project Lisi Green Tower. The project is created by the world-famous Dutch architectural company Yuan Studio. Yuan Studio owns such diverse projects around the world as Mercedes-Benz Museum, the Beethoven Concert Hall in Germany, and many others. Lisi Green Tower is a 10-story premium-class residential building that includes 25 apartments. The stained glass facade of the building makes it possible for every apartment to have a panoramic view of Tbilisi. The total investment of the project amounts to $13 million. The building is located in the second district of largest residential complex, Green City Lisi, which is distinguished by the unique principle. It means that 80% of the project is covered by greenery and the additional infrastructure is occupied by buildings. Lisi Development has been a leading development company in Georgia for 13 years. The company steadily continues its activities on new projects both in Tbilisi and Ajar region. Zeekr 001 electric car of premium brand of Geely Holding is now available in Georgia. The electric car was introduced by Auto Gallery, a company included in Toyota Cars. Zeekr, part of Geely Group, produces fully electric vehicles. The first electric car, model Zeekr 001, was officially released in 2021. This car combines sporty character and excellent exterior. The electric car has 544 horsepower. Zeekr 001 can travel 646 kilometers with one full charge. It takes over 4 seconds to accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers. Yamaha audio system creates more comfort. The car is equipped with modern safety systems, which safety systems were designed and integrated into the vehicle inspired by the Swedish Volvo. Auto Gallery, part of Toyota Holding, has been operating on the Georgian market since 2018. A wide selection of both new and used vehicles is represented in the multi-brand showroom. In addition to eco-friendly cars, the company also imports exclusive cars since 2020. Auto Gallery is the official partner and importer of electric mopeds on the Georgian market. Galleria Tbilisi declares that the number of customers has decreased. According to Nino Aduashvili, the head of company's communications service, the number of daily users decreased from 15,000 to 13,000 in recent months. According to her, there is a 10% decrease in tourist visits as well. In the current period, the customers' traffic is lower compared to other months. However, this number is not radically reduced. If the daily number of customers equal to 15,000, now the number amounts to 30,000 per day, which was not a radical decrease. In general, we had an expectation regarding the lower activity during this month. We hope that these indicators will change, says Nino Aduashvili, head of communications service of Galleria Tbilisi. Galleria Tbilisi makes a positive assessment regarding 2024. According to Nino Aduashvili, after the slowdown in Q1 and Q2, there is an expectation of growth for Q3 and 4. The shopping center Galleria Tbilisi, built on Rustaveli Avenue in Tbilisi, was opened by Vidina Ivanishvili's co-investment fund in 2017. The co-investment fund began construction of multifunctional shopping mall in 2015. The total investment amounted to $97 million. A new 5-star hotel and casino will be built in the building of former Ministry of Communications at Rustaveli Avenue. The real estate is located on a land plot of over 3,000 square meters, and the head office of Georgian Airways is located in the building currently standing on it. The owner of the real estate is LLC Marili 2020, which 100% shareholder is the founding partner of Georgian Airways, Tamar Gayashvili. The building will keep its historical appearance from the side of Rustaveli Avenue. In total, the building will have 10 floors. A circular courtyard will be located in the middle of the new building. In addition to the casino, commercial spaces will also be placed in the new complex. Georgian home textile manufacturing company Zezetsari offers customers a variety of sheets, towels, pajamas, and bed linen. As the founder of the brand, Maria Makhuladiani, told BMWG, the demand for their products is increasing year on year. According to her, the products are sold in Vaki showroom for the last year. However, customers can also buy the products online through various platforms. According to her, in terms of online sales, regions are significantly active. This year, the brand is planning to enter the shopping mall in Tbilisi. Demand is increasing year on year. Customers like the fact the produce Georgian products. We try to find space in shopping mall for the new showroom. In the next 2 to 3 months, we should add a new collection with new types of fabrics, such as, for example, canvas, says Akhladiani. In the future, the company plans to create its own enterprise, but at this stage, it's only an idea and no other details are made public. Home textile manufacturing brand Zazatari has been operating on the Georgian market since 2021. To launch the production line, the initial investment of the brand amounted to 20,000 lari. Pizzeria Paza is expanding. The new branch will be opened in Gdani district early in March this year due to the great demand on the product. Keto Papava, co-founder of Paza, told TV program Women's Narrative, this will be quite a large branch, the largest we have had so far, which will host customers in Gdani district from March. Keto Papava said, according to her, the investment made in the Gdani branch amounts to 100,000 lari, which is a bank loan. Keto Papava explains that in connection with the opening of new branch, it's planned to increase the staff number and 10 people will be employed in the Gdani branch. The goal of Paza is to offer customers a variety of street food, but at the beginning they focus on pizza. Currently, Paza offers customers 10 types of pizza, the prices of which range from 20 lari to 29 lari. Pizzeria Paza has been operating on the Georgian market since 2019. Currently, 2 branches of Paza are operating in Ngorohwa and Gagarini streets, while the 3rd branch of Pizzeria will welcome customers in Gdani from March. Takara is the first Georgian restaurant that started operating at Kutaisi International Airport. The facility is located on the 2nd floor of the departure hall and is the first La Carta restaurant in the airport, which offers guests a wide selection of Georgian dishes. The general manager of the restaurant, Nina Benashvili, spoke about Takara in TV program Women's Narrative. Restaurant Takara was officially opened on February 14. The investment made for the opening reached 1 million lari. At this stage, the restaurant employs about 40 locals. Prior to the official opening of our restaurant has been operating in Kutaisi International Airport since last December in a test mode. We are constantly in observation mode. We listen to our customers. We take into account their opinion, and said Nina Benashvili. According to her, this is the first facility of Takara, although the company is planning to expand, and the next facility of Takara will probably open in Ajara in the near future. Miskuzi opened a school of roller skating where training began on February 26. Mariam Kemoklidze, co-founder of the brand, told TV program Women's Narrative. The learning process in Miskuzi lasts for 1 month. The lessons will be held by a professional and experienced trainer. Courses at Miskuzi school consist of 4 or 8 lessons. The price ranges from 120 lari to 200 lari respectively. The rental fee of the roller is not included in the cost, which amounts to 40 lari. Production of eco-friendly, colorful rollers under the brand of Miskuzi in Georgia started in 2022. At this stage, about 100 rollers are produced per month. The founder of Miskuzi says that they fully meet the demand in local market and can compete with imported products. Natural juice production company Alali, located in Tel Aviv, produces 27 types of products. As the founder of the company, Gocha Guinepadze, told BMDG, last year was very active for them. According to him, they took part in many exhibitions last year, including Qatar, the USA, Azerbaijan, Germany, and Saudi Arabia. As a result of the exhibitions, negotiations are currently underway with Azerbaijan. The contract with Saudi Arabia has already been signed. The company also plans to enter U.S. market. At this stage, the process of solving logistical issues is underway. This year, we will add at least 2-3 exporting markets, Guinepadze said. According to him, it's planned to enter the HoReCa sector this year, for which negotiations have already started with Tel Aviv and Tbilisi hotels. The natural juice production company Alali has been operating in the market since 2019 and is located in Tel Aviv. 27 types of products are produced in the enterprise, which are sold both on local and international markets. At this stage, the enterprise employs up to 25 people. The company buys the raw materials from the local farmers.
We want Georgia to be a member of the European Union. I know that many of you have worked very hard to achieve this, and I know that you will work even harder in the coming months and years in the legislative and other necessary directions to make the 9 priorities a reality. The United States of America will contribute to support you in this effort, U.S. Ambassador to Georgia Robin Danigan said during her speech at the Foreign Relations Committee of the Parliament of Georgia. The ambassador expressed her hope that the Georgian government will cooperate closely with the civil society because, according to her, in the end, consensus and unity within the Georgian society will be necessary for the EU membership. And that's all for today. We will meet next Sunday. But before that, check us out on BM.G for more news and analysis in business and economics in Georgia and beyond. Take care.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.